Breast milk science. It's a thing. And it's our thing. We're By Heart. We're an infant formula company on a mission to get a lot closer to the most super food on the planet, breast milk. Our patented protein blend has more of the important and most abundant proteins found in breast milk. We're the first and only U.S.-made formula to use organic, grass-fed whole milk, not skim. We make our formula in our own factories in Iowa, Oregon, and Pennsylvania, using a small batch manufacturing process that works to preserve the integrity of our ingredients. We ran the largest clinical trial by a new infant formula company in 25 years and clinically proved benefits like easier digestion, less gas, and softer poops versus a leading infant formula. We were the first infant formula company to earn the Clean Label Project Purity Award. And while we've put a lot into By Heart, there's a long list of things you won't see on our ingredient list, like no corn syrup, no maltodextrin, no GMO ingredients, no soy, no palm oil. By Heart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.
What happened was when it opened up so strongly, it was very hard because I would see lighter energies or what I would call angelic forms, but I would also see the darker energies. And with that darkness brought up about fear. And trying to turn this damn thing off or figure out how to use it definitely took time. And it definitely took time to integrate.
Hello, I'm Wendy. Okay, this is a different deal because I wanted to include an interview from 2011, and this is from Jonas Elrod, because Jonas had this incredible experience where he basically, you call it a spiritually transformative event, okay? And that isn't what he says and the term that he uses, but then again, things have evolved since then. My own experience included some of the things that he mentions that he did a movie on, and that movie is called Wake Up. My book is out now. It's called Talking to Nightlights 2. I did an original version. I didn't like the way that it turned out. It's too stilted, too stuffy, too stale. I wanted to put it in my own language. And so redoing that gave me an opportunity to include some of the paranormal stuff that happened with my experiences. Because once I started seeing and connecting with this nightlight energy, I began to have an expanded awareness of other things in my reality that I hadn't really given a whole lot of attention to. And realizing it was all connected then took it to a different level. So mediumship, seeing energies, little things like fairies, brownies, that kind of thing. Also having knowing about certain places being in some way, shape, or form haunted or occupied by unseen occupants. There was so much going on with that. I had time shift experiences. And there was one point where in 2009, that was an incredible year for all sorts of stuff. And since then, I've come to realize that when you're going through a crisis, like you're in the middle of a midlife crisis of some kind, a shift, I changed my life 180 degrees during that time. Well, everything went out the door in terms of what I understood about my reality. I had experiences with, it seemed like ETs, they called themselves transdimensionals, and I can't see them, but I was aware at one point the room felt like it was full of people, and I heard telepathic conversation and telling me to do certain things. And at one point, I'm looking over at my computer desk, and my uncle had died, and I had a picture of him inserted into one of my calendars. And at that point, I was told, "Bob's your uncle." So I hear the words, "Bob's your uncle." I look over at that desk on the calendar. It's laying half out, a picture of my uncle, Uncle Bob. And there's no one alive who would know that, for one thing, the picture was there, and to say at that moment, "Bob's your uncle." So that was one of my things. It's like, what the heck is going on here? And then Andy and I, my husband, now, we went to a restaurant, coffee house, and I saw people walking with horns and tails. And I mean, the pitchfork type horns and tails. And I thought, what the heck? And there was some of them. All right, this one happened to be a professor, and he had a group of kids around him who were there to study or hang out, whatever. But it was very obvious from then on, when I saw people with horns and tails, it usually indicated a predisposition towards material stuff. And the other people I saw during this time, in 2009, about 3 or 4 months or so, I saw people who were Native American, and I was working part-time at Macy's at that point. and I saw Native Americans who came into the store, and they were all dressed in rainbow colors. One even had a carry-all bag that had a rainbow on it, and they were dressed in different colors. They were the most colorful people. The others I saw who would be considered mentally impaired, they wore green. And so during this time, all this stuff was happening. I had a time shift. I was told to go a certain place and take an uncircuitous route, or take a circuitous route. Get that right. Unspecified, undesignated, whatever, a roundabout. And so I took that route, and then there was a reason for being at a place at a certain time. And by doing that, it guaranteed that the time was right. These things were just absolutely astounding to me. I couldn't believe it was happening. And then when I saw Jonas Elrod and his film, and he said this had happened to him years before he did the movie, and in preparing for the movie, they met with a lot of other people to be able to incorporate that information and kind of give a frame of reference for his experiences. So that is one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to him. So you're going to hear the interview with Jonas Elrod. My book is called Talking to Nightlights 2. It's available through Amazon. It's a Kindle book, ebook, and a paperback. It spells out the initial introduction. I wrote it in 1998, and then I updated with some of the stuff that I continue to get from the guides and from the energy, because that nightlight thing is still happening for me. And it does affect the electronics. And sometimes, like this morning when I'm working with my mouse, it's going all over the place. It has a new battery. That's not the issue. When my energy changes, then the electronics get a little bit funky and a little more challenging for me to deal with. And I know I've talked with somebody else who has this. At first, I was really blowing out light bulbs, computers, frying computers, that kind of thing. No fun and expensive now that it has settled down. And so I just know that I have a little bit more energy today. In terms of, there might be a storm, electrical storm, or something that also exacerbates it too. But just some of the things you have to get used to and understand and integrate when you go through these types of life changes. And if you're going through something like this, you are not alone. Jonas Elrod shared his story, and when he did, he had people come up to the screenings telling him, "Thank you so much. You have no idea what I've been going through." And he did. He did have an idea what they were going through. But, well, I think, and they meant, having no one to talk to about it. So this is the interview, Jonas Elrod, and the movie, you can look it up. It's called Wake Up.
When I hear people say they're bored, I don't ever feel bored now. It's just, this mystery is really one to take upon, and it's been instrumental in teaching me and helping me grow and, hopefully change into a lighter being.
What happened that made you go ahead and put this thing all out for the public to see?
Well, I've been a documentary filmmaker for the last 11 years, and 6 years ago I had what's been referred to as a spontaneous awakening, which was very, very radical and challenging for me to deal with. But pretty much what happened, I was working on an earlier film, and the night before our big shoot, the quote-unquote veil dropped, and I started seeing spirits and energies and entities and all kind of wild geometry, and they spoke to me, and, needless to say, and I definitely have distance from it at this point, it was shocking, somewhat terrifying, and somewhat beautiful. And ever since that moment, 6 years ago on Valentine's Day, I've had these experiences that pop up on a pretty regular basis. And what had happened on that initial night is these spirits told me to expose what was happening. And so that's just what I did. I grabbed a camera and got a crew and a co-director, Chloe Crespi. Her and I directed the film together, and my producer, Steve Utinsky, and I drugged my girlfriend on the way and literally went around the country asking what the hell is happening. My girlfriend, Mara, was a skeptic, which is completely understandable because I have some really wild metaphysical experiences happening. So what she likes to call the house portion of the film, and house, the television show, I got an MRI and a psychological evaluation and all that kind of rational stuff that you do when you start seeing spirits in the corner or having messages or premonitory dreams. And when all that checked out, clean bill of health, we took a spiritual route, the scientific route, to figure out what the hell is going on with me. And that really is the genesis of Wake Up. And we definitely go from a small, inciting incident, which for me wasn't small. It was definitely life-altering. And we start to address a lot of the bigger questions and bigger issues that are coming up, with evolution of consciousness, the global shift, all that sort of fun business.
Some of the names that other people may or may not be familiar with who are, from my experience over the last 20 years, I had read the book, The Afterlife Experiments, with Dr. Schwartz in Arizona. I had read information with these people, and I had been through it in my own working through this kind of phenomena, trying to quantify it and make sure I wasn't totally blown out of my mind. And so it was so nice to see this all in one spot. And for people who are also going through this, I really think you've done a wonderful service for all of your doubts, all of your, especially watching you go through the little stint in the psychiatrist chair, and the pain, it's really clear. And the psychiatrist is also trying to block himself from you with the body language. You see that. That is a crucial element that people who are going through this, we question what it is that's happening and why we have done this to ourselves, and how can we make it in some ways stop. But there's that beauty part of it that you don't want to make it stop. You just opened up. It's like, and you're torn. And you just said, all right, and continued. And your girlfriend, bless her, because you can see it was a stretch for her too, was right there beside you. What changed you the most?
Whoa. There are many, many different things that kind of add up to that. And Mara, bless her, she was absolutely amazing, because some of the stuff I would tell her, just didn't even sound fathomable. And she really stood on my side, went on this adventure with me. She had a choice. I didn't really have a choice. And the idea that Chloe and I didn't set out to make a spiritual film. We just really wanted to document what was happening, and it definitely took on a huge spiritual bent. But, we went through so many different things with trying to understand and trying to integrate and see what this really meant in reality in general. And we visited healers and shaman and quantum physicists and, spiritual leaders, whatnot. Brought to the School of Enlightenment. I stayed for a couple weeks on an American Indian reservation, participated in sweat lodges, vision quests. You name it. We really tried to dig in there and do it. Not to give a short answer, but it was kind of a culmination of all these different pieces that really helped me shift and gain understanding. Now, there's those that say, well, you can meditate and access all those answers. That wasn't the case for me. I just had too many questions going on, and of course, it would have been an incredibly short film. But we felt very blessed. We got a lot of great people that were able to teach me and offer me understanding as a character in the film, but also as a co-director to really build a much larger platform than just someone talking about seeing spirits. It definitely goes to much deeper and bigger places than that.
You have that wonderful minister that is so loving and compassionate in his answer to you, saying Jesus is a part of this. And Moses saw the stuff. He would have been totally, locked away if he told people, I talked to a burning bush.
He was really amazing. It really, when these experiences happened, a lot of my religious thoughts kind of dissipated because I was seeing something different. And then I meet a cat like Reverend Ford that really kind of brought it right back into the fold for me. So he was incredibly instrumental for me as well.
Well, and just to give people an idea, Llewellyn Vaughn, who is a mystic, and he brings the discussion about nature spirits and all of it being connected. And the talk you had with J.Z. Knight, and you're sitting by yourself kind of going, what the heck am I doing here? And it's really obvious, and at the same time asking, if I don't get enlightenment by Friday, I'm done. I want my money back.
Right. Well, I quickly learned there are no shortcuts, and even if an experience was positive or negative, give me, in my redneck mind, a few minutes or a few weeks to think about it. I got that every moment was perfect to get me into a place where I could gain understanding.
It had to open you up and kind of break through the little crust that you had of protection, basically. And, that part of this, it's like it resonates. I see it. It's something that I have in my own growth and search for why and how this can possibly happen. I've had to come to the conclusion that I don't know anything. It's all unfolding as I am living it and becoming it. And it's a wonderful way to explore the world, but it isn't easy for people around you to watch or to join in, because sometimes they say, could you just be normal for a minute? And, this is normal. It's just a different way of viewing the world.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Llewellyn Von Lee, the Sufi mystic, he put it a nice way, and I definitely still part of that camp, is, we're comfortable with what we think reality is, and we're all kind of in our own little box, and that's me included. For some reason, I kind of got tipped out of that box. I mean, I'm in another box now. It's just a little bit more expanded. But this stuff can be very challenging, to say the least, because the parameters of your world really expand. And, it can also be incredibly exciting. When I hear people say they're bored, I mean, I don't ever feel bored now. It's just, this mystery is really one to take upon, and it's been instrumental in teaching me and helping me grow and, hopefully change into a lighter being.
Let's just get back to some of the basics of why you were shaken from your reality to start out with. You started seeing angels, beings, spirits, colors, all sorts of things that we don't normally see in our, daily 9 to 5. It's a whole different realm that is with us, but usually we are blocked. And for you, that opened up. Do you still see that aspect?
I do. I mean, I still have these experiences. What's interesting in, embarking and making Wake Up is I don't know how terribly open I would have been to this prior to these experiences. So if I'd have met you at Starbucks and you started casually telling me about your experiences, I might have been slightly open, but there would have been a part of me that's like, are you kidding me? Really? So I understand the skepticism, and I certainly understand, and now I've grown to incredibly appreciate Mary's skepticism. But it's all real. I mean, these experiences have definitely been real, and I still have these experiences day to day. What happened was when it opened up so strongly, it was very hard because I would see lighter energies, or what I would call angelic forms, but I would also see the darker energies. And with that darkness brought about fear. And trying to turn this damn thing off or figure out how to use it definitely took time. And it definitely took time to integrate. And I met a lot of people that taught me meditation and grounded meditations. And, literally I was this redneck from the South who was raised a certain way, and it was, with Christianity. So hearing about chakras and meditation and how, remote viewing and astral projection or shaman, this was all very, very new to me. So my older paradigm started to crumble, and I really had to learn and experience a new way. And, that's not something that's going to happen overnight.
No. And again, we're talking with Jonas Elrod, who is in the film Wake Up. And if you're having any of these paranormal types of experiences, which I do believe more and more people are having, still there's that fear of talking about it because we don't have, you can't just go out to a resource like when Mara's telling you, we can't just ask the neighbors. There's
right.
no blueprint for this.
When we were building the film, we were making a conscious effort. I think these experiences are a hell of a lot more common than people say. And Dean Radin, the scientist, put in a great way. He said, look, this is still on the outskirts of society. This is still a taboo. And his job working through science is to bring this inside the bubble. So it's not taboo. And he compared this to meditation in the 60s and yoga. People thought this was heathen and just such radical counterculture. And then in time, you can turn on TV and see Ellen doing, the downward dog while selling vitamin water or whatever the case is. So you see these things are coming into the mass consciousness and even in pop culture. It takes time. But we've met so many people that have had these quote-unquote normal lives, and then one night everything changed. And it seems to be accelerating for whatever reason.
In 1997, I had that change, only mine happened with nightlights. I was given, and am still given, the everyday conscious reminder we are not alone, because my nightlights work in conjunction with my spirit guides wherever I am. Now, most people, the street lamp thing, you go under it, it goes out, that kind of stuff. Well, I can go into a room, and if there is an energy present, then the light, it was really funny because at one point the nightlight was off, and I was in a hotel room with a friend, and he said, well, it doesn't work here. Well, that's usually a clue that it does work. It just chooses to stay off. And so instead of, in the same outlet, instead of the nightlight doing anything, it went ahead and did the lamp. And then he said, make it stop.
Wow.
But those kinds of things are our way of being more conscious of what we are doing, our thoughts. We are not alone. And that element, when it first happened to me, I had to learn how to become a channel. And I worked with spirit guides for 3 years daily to figure out how to do this for the highest good and asking that stuff. And then only 2 years ago, that was in 97, 2 years ago, I had this amazing experience with a negative energy. And so the sage, my life had changed, and this element came in. And the sage, as you're doing the smudging, it wasn't something I practiced on a regular basis. But when my friend helped me clear this energy from my space that I could feel and see manifesting in horrific ways around me, I wasn't afraid. I just was uninformed. And I knew I had protection. And as we went through the house, I discovered what I had to be protected from. And as it tried to keep the door shut without us being able to move, 2 of us, move that door and open it up, I realized some of these things that we are just learning about really beg us to become more conscious of what we're now calling anomaly, but extrasensory being. And so that's what I see in your film, a way to give each and every person who watches something of their own religion or their own frame of reference to find a tangible connection to this. And when you go into the Buddhist background with Joan, I can't remember her last name. Halifax, yes, in Santa Fe. That's when Mara has the experience of connecting to her own sense of, oh my gosh, this is what I am. This is what I do. That was a really wonderful connection, I think, that the 2 of you were able to share.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I mean, everyone that was in the film and the entire crew, I think we all emerged from this process of making Wake Up changed. And it was incredibly hard and a long process. We worked for years upon years to build this. We've been doing screenings, and people have been buying the DVD, and the screens have been just amazing. We do Q&As afterwards, and it is remarkable how many people come up just in tears saying that I've had these experiences or I've been thinking this stuff my whole life. And I think there's becoming a platform where people feel some kind of safety to talk about it or to share and discuss ideas, which, our socks are knocked off. We feel so blessed that, people care. People are searching. People are trying to grow and evolve and understand.
I like the part where you include the research that's ongoing at Princeton on the consciousness studies. And I've read about this before, but interweaving it into your story gives people kind of a template for seeing how our group mass consciousness is active at all times, especially when he goes into the presentation on 9/11.
Absolutely. And I like what you said in the intro about how you start having some awareness, doesn't matter how much, you start realizing that not just your actions carry energy and affect the whole, but also your thoughts. And so you really kind of have to man up to really start changing and growing, because you realize, and Roger Nelson shows this in his experiment, that we all are all connected. It's just not something that Buddhists say or other religions say. This is actually our science talking. And that energy, that oneness, also has a premonitory sense. And that's what he shows with, the tragedy of 9/11. It's been interesting. People come up after the screening, and for some people, that part, or with Gary Schwartz, the science is their favorite part, because that's how they're able to digest it and understand it. And for others, someone like Llewellyn Von Lee or Mark Coulson, that's their favorite part, because the spiritual side's how they digest it. So it's been really interesting all the way around that, this information is coming from both sides of the fence, so to speak.
Speaking of both sides of the fence, I think it's really funny. At first, years ago, they taught you meditation to get in touch with the divine. Okay, get in touch with the divine, go into a room and meditate. Don't expect anything, it will happen. And now, the way that the energy has shifted and the way that the dynamics of consciousness work as one has, and I will tie this into the way when Dr. Schwartz holds your hand over this little sensor and shows you he can make an impression on that sensor by touching your other hand, and it goes through your body and you act as an antenna. This is the way, in my way of working and accessing consciousness works. You can get it through another by being in their vibration, in their energy field. You can access information you may not have had before. So what happened with the friend who just transited gave you access in that heart chakra to a whole new way of being, and it awakened you in that moment to the divine, which includes everything, both positive and light, yin yang, the entire dynamic. And when that happens, we have this tremendous shift into reality, as it were. That's what I see through this whole scenario, this dynamic, this shift that we're all undergoing, that you are basically putting there in full view for anyone who has time to take a moment and sit back and say, what if he's right?
Well, that's certainly interesting. I appreciate the way you put it. I mean, it is interesting, the fact that I see a lot more people talk about these type of subjects. I definitely come across a lot of people that are searching, and I think that we're all being pushed to go there, with some of the tragedies in the world, or the economy, or, the environment, that, it really starts to get you to think, who am I? What is this whole thing about? What is God? Why am I here? I definitely see a lot of people looking at these matters where, sometimes we kind of coast along until maybe we hit a bump in the road. I'm hoping that we can all take time to start looking at these things and addressing, because we certainly could use a more positive shift than what you see happening in the news.
Being in the media and having that background for 20 plus years and being plugged into that aspect and knowing how some things are manufactured, and that if it bleeds, it leads. Visuals are very, very important and potent. You can shift people's thoughts, ideas, and if you consume that stuff 24/7, your view of reality is completely different than somebody who's out working the farm and just enjoying nature and being part of that process. So again, it comes back to realizing that you are basically a conscious programmer as opposed to an autopilot automaton. And that's where your film comes in to say, if you explore these areas, maybe some of your own ideas will shift. When you went to Italy, Rome, you had an encounter with someone who reads energy, and they take pictures trying to capture what might be in your space. Was that pretty shocking?
Well, the short answer is yes. I mean, earlier on when we were making Wake Up, I thought, well, hell, if I can just get a couple pictures of these energies, then, maybe people are skeptical or on the fence or downright do not believe what I'm saying will kind of come around. The irony of this is, and I really get that the universe has a hell of a sense of humor, is this was a photo I really didn't want to, put on Facebook, show a bunch of people.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so I don't want to spoil the film, but, we got something pretty, what some people would call very radical on tape. And this wasn't, some kind of thing with dry eyes and cue the organ. This was software that was used by this cat named Umberto de Grazia in Rome, who, what he does is he breaks out all the different rays, infrarays, this, that, and the other, and he isolates them to see the subtle energies that are in a room. And I definitely got one big shock when he started showing me some of the things that were around.
The reason I find it so amusing, and I'm laughing with you, not at you, is because when we get into this communication, when we get into this connecting with the unknown, the unseen, and we put up our barriers, we are saving ourselves from some of the things that you're getting. But when we go in with an open heart and we have the highest intentions and we get this divine, phenomenal information, and then we are shown the source, it's like a little comeuppance as to, again, Mara, why do you think this? Why is it happening? How could this be? So what? And that's your moment in there where you have to kind of come back to, wow, what am I doing?
Absolutely. Well, this process was challenging to expose myself, and we really wanted to make a film where it was, with the film Wake Up, none of us are saying this is the way it is by any stretch of the imagination. You really are kind of following me and my lover Mara as we kind of stumble around a lot of different possibilities based on experiences I was having. And that was just another, wow experience. And we really wanted to show something where, we're not talking at the screen telling you the way it is. I often find that sometimes offensive. We just want to present a lot of possibilities. And if this film can start a conversation, then that's amazing. We would be thrilled with that. But by no means are we saying this is the way it is.
Oh, I love it when you talk with the psychiatrist and he says to you, is it real? And you say, you tell me. Because that's basically what all of this is. You create your reality. And what you choose to put into it is what you get back. It's an investment in whatever it is that we are going through. And it happens on, macro, micro. It's not just one. It's co-creating. We are all a part of this. When you are in a position you're in to kind of look back and see all the good, the bad, and the ugly on film, is just be gentle with yourself and say, hey, this is a wonderful first step. It's a wonderful way to introduce these kinds of things to others who maybe have never heard it, have never experienced it, but those who have will say, yeah, thanks. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't fall asleep at the wheel.
Absolutely. Well, that was very well put. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Jonas. I appreciate you.
Wendy, thank you so much. And, have a great day.
You too. Jonas Elrod, again, is from Wake Up, the film, and you can check it out. It's about an hour and a half or so, and you can download it, or you can actually just rent it online. I love the film. You are treated to a lot of experiences that you don't have to go through yourself. He does them for you. Getting the MRI, great. The psychiatrist chair, yeah. But those are what we go through as we discover our own connections, and that they are connections that don't fit into neat and tidy boxes. Everybody isn't talking about them on the news. They aren't saying this is relevant. You have to go to things like Carlos Castaneda. You have to go into huge, huge personal pursuits to determine how this fits in your reality, because for each and every one of us, it is completely different.
As Jonas mentioned several times, he says he was a redneck guy. This stuff that happened to him had no place in his reality, so it changed him totally. And also, he was surrounded by people who hadn't heard of this kind of thing, so he didn't have a support system either. So completely and totally unaware that any of this stuff was possible, and it was normal. It wasn't being crazy. It was something that could happen to anyone at any time. And so if it happens to you, there are more support systems out now. My book is called Talking to Nightlights 2, and it's available at Amazon, also a Kindle book, so paperback or Kindle, whatever's more convenient. And they'll give you a preview of it. It sets up the first chapter or so. It sets up the story and the interaction, engagement with my nightlights. And it's an energy. It speaks to me telepathically. It also has been blinking my nightlights and other like lamps and lights since 1997. So this isn't something new. It's something I have learned to work with and then expanded my own awareness as a result. There are other things about our reality that we are beginning to understand are part of our norms. And sometimes, you shut it out, and so you think it doesn't exist. But when you become more familiar and comfortable with it, and it starts revealing itself to you, it's fascinating, all the things that could happen, and you don't need drugs. Meditation helps, and it also helps to read, to find out more about remote viewing or paranormal experiences, and take the fear out. Just give yourself an advance education on what might be possible, and then you don't have to worry about things like being afraid of your own shadow. The shadow element is present, I will tell you that. I had some negative experiences. Again, the 2009 was the most outrageous in terms of the wide variety, time shifts, a negative entity in the house who, when I tried to get rid of it, fortunately, the man who's now my husband was with me when we tried to open the door, and it kept it shut because we were pushing hard to open the door, and it was pushing hard. There's nothing that I could see. The door was being held shut. We opened the door and got it out with exerting a lot of pressure. But those kinds of things, it helped to have him there. I didn't put all that in the book. There was just too much to talk about, and I'll expand on it later. But you can also check out my blog, and that's on WordPress. Talking to Nightlight's the WordPress blog. And if I say that too fast, I get tongue-tied. I'm also putting links here. So you can read in the description. You can check out the link for the book. You can check out the link for the blog. You can check out Jonas Elrod's film to find out more about that. Fascinating story. And I'm so glad he had the experience, because it gave me a template and something concrete to say, I know this happened to me. The horns and tails thing. Okay, what happened if you didn't have horns and tails? It was like a happy medium. All right. That was just one element. That was the most materialistic. And it didn't mean you were a devil. It just meant it was a very materialistic outlook. Someone who doesn't see any of the metaphysics, any of the other elements that are around us at all times. And that was an amazing way to see that. It was also, I kind of wanted to avoid them. So there you go. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you got something out of this that you can use and you can share as well.
Are you struggling to lose weight and keep it off? Tired of wasting time and money on starvation diets that lead to more frustration and stress? If there was a weight loss solution that could actually work for you, would you try it? Then head to Golo.com.
I'm Steve. I lost 138 pounds in 9 months on Golo.
I'm Amber. I've lost 128 pounds with Golo.
If you're ready to take back control of your life, head to Golo.com now and see how Golo can work for you. That's Golo.com.
My sleep is way better. My inflammation has gone way down. Golo saved my life. I was way overweight. That's what sent me down the path. I wanted to make sure and live for my kid.
I have literally tried everything. I was on the verge of getting gastric bypass surgery, and I saw the Golo commercial, and it was the last thing I tried because it worked.
Join over 2 million people who found a better way to lose weight with Golo. Your healthier and happier life begins at Golo.com. That's Golo.com. Again, Golo.com.
Nice buns, soft, fluffy, and ultra-low net carbs. Discover Hero Bread, the delicious ultra-low net carb bread with incredible taste and texture. Hero Bread has 0 grams of sugar and is under 100 calories per serving. Plus, high in fiber with 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. Available on Amazon.com, Walmart.com, and at Hero.co. That's Hero.co. Delicious, ultra-low net carb Hero Bread, buns and tortillas. Soft and fluffy, high in fiber, and with 0 grams of sugar, up to 10 grams of protein, coming in at under 100 calories. Order today at Hero.co and use the code AH10 to get 10% off your first purchase. That's AH10 at Hero.co. Hero.co. Order from Hero.co now and get 10% off your first purchase with promo code AH10. That's 10% off with code AH10. Hero.co.